So good morning, friends. Good to be with you today. We've been contemplating the subject of servant leadership just by way of a little deviation in our book of Mark study. The book of Mark chapter 9 and chapter 10, we have Jesus addressing the issue of greatness and says if you want to be great, then you've got to be the least. And the least of all will be the servant, or the greatest of all is going to be the servant of all. So servant leadership has been a little deviation, and I hope it's been a good one for you. I want to round it off today by giving you another criteria that I believe that servant leaders epitomize. Servant leaders have an incredible passion to uplift the condition of those who are around them. Have a look biblically, and you'll see how servant leaders look around them and say, this should not be like this. We shouldn't be living like this. That was kind of like what Nehemiah did when he went and he addressed the people in Jerusalem. And his speech to them was, why are you living like this? You are children of God. We need to do something about this. We need to protect the temple and rebuild the walls. And why on earth are you settling for living like this? And occasionally in the course of your life, you meet people who epitomize this beautiful value. They look around and they see people who are living in conditions that they don't like, that they believe they shouldn't be living in. And these little gems rise up from the community to say, let's rise up and do something about this. Now, there's one thing we know that God will never do. God will never use somebody with a victim's mentality. We learned this as we spoke about some time back in the story of Gideon. That Gideon was, to all intents and purposes, the victim. Living up on the hills, the Midianites have stolen his crops, and he's hiding in a barrel trying to reap just a little bit of his own wheat. And suddenly an angel comes to him and declares him to be something that Gideon never thought he was. He declares him to be a mighty warrior. And Gideon is confused by this and says, you know, there's nothing mighty about me, and I am a victim. I am a useless human being, and I'm of no use to you at all. And God could not use Gideon until he dealt with that victim's mentality. And so we see how Gideon went through those different tests, and God was gracious, and God was kind to him, and God was understanding of his victim's way of thinking. But he had to change it before he could use Gideon to do that mighty work, that courageous work of defeating the whole Midianite army. God cannot use you with a victim's mentality. Now, I was looking for a real live example of that to be able to share with you. And I'm going to tell you, I have found one, a beautiful, beautiful example. Yesterday, I was in my church office and our lovely young lady at the reception phoned and said, Trevor, there's a couple of young ladies here that would like to see you. Have you got time to come down? I said, yeah, of course I've got time. So I went down to the reception, and there were these two young ladies. And I said, hey, ladies, what can I do to help you? They must have been about 18 years old. And they were so respectful. And they said, Pastor, we know that we have kind of gate crashed here, but we were just hoping that you could spare us a few moments. I live for moments like this. Anyway, I said, ladies, tell me your story. What can I do to help you? And they said, we want two things. We were in church on Sunday. We've been going to the youth group here at the church, and we come from a squatter camp just outside the boundary of our church here. We have thousands of people living in abject poverty, and it's a miserable, miserable situation. And they said, we live in this area, and we've been coming to youth, and we're sick and tired of being sick and tired. We're sick and tired of doing nothing. Can you give us, just give us something to do? We want to volunteer here at the church. We'll come every day. We'll do whatever you need for us to be doing, just to give us something to do. We're sick and tired of doing nothing. And I thought, wow, where do we find people like this? Most people want a handout. Most people want to work, but they want you to pay them. They said, you don't have to pay us. We have nothing. But if you just give us something to do, we're in. We'll do whatever you require of us to do. I said, that's going to be done. You be here on Monday morning, and we're going to set you up with meeting some good people, and we'll find a great place for you to volunteer. Then I said, well, what's the second thing that you want? And they said, well, we live in this area outside the church here, and we live in a very dangerous place. And the young women in our area are very, very vulnerable. They're subjected to sexual abuse. They can be beaten up all the time. Many of them are being raped. And we have a favor to ask of you. We want to learn self-defense. We want to be able to protect ourselves to the best that we can, so that if somebody comes and tries to do something to us, at least we're able to protect ourselves. Because she said, you know, we call the police at an event like this, but the police won't come into our area because it's too dangerous. So will you teach us some self-defense? And they went on to speak about our safe place units that we have out in this community. They love the safe places. And they said, but man, we would love to learn how to be able to defend ourselves. And I said, that is awesome. How many people can you bring? They said, we will bring most of the young women in our community. And we're going to bring them, and if you can teach us that we can stand up for ourselves in a world that is so unfair and so unjust. And I thought, man, here's two great young leaders, and they're doing it on behalf of the people in their community. This is a great picture of servant leadership. They're not just doing it for themselves. They say, we're going to promote this in this squatter camp, this informal settlement, and we want to bring them. If you will just teach us how we can defend ourselves, we'll bring our friends with us, and they'll learn as well. And I walked away from that. My heart was just on fire, man, just to meet two young ladies who just want to do something for the people in their community, who want to see young ladies be better protected or be able to protect themselves. Anyway, so I'm on a mission, and we're going to run self-defense courses. And then I said, we're going to add to that first aid courses, and we're going to teach you how to not just protect yourself, but how to address issues of when you come across somebody who might just need that safe first aid help, count us in. We're going to do that. So, you know, I just looked for a real live example, and I thought, that's servant leadership. It took a lot of courage for them to face the fact. It took a lot of courage for them to get out of the victim's mentality that most people live in our community, and I say that with great understanding and respect. But here's two young ladies breaking the model, breaking the mold of waiting for somebody to come and do it for them, and they're willing to do it themselves and uplift the community around them. People, I applaud people like that. I can't wait for Monday to meet with these two young ladies again. I'll keep you updated as to their progress. Maybe even introduce the two of them to you one morning. But have a great weekend, people. Let's be servant leaders with courage and conviction, and let's do it with the eyes on our community around us to see what we can do to help to make their lives better. God bless you guys as you do this in your workplaces, in your schools, in your homes, in your communities, because we think you're awesome. Have a great day. Bye-bye.